Change is hard. And in a crisis like COVID-19, it gets very complex. This year, we've been hit with a pandemic that has caused more than 1 million deaths, unparalleled unemployment, and a global economic downturn. In times of stress, crisis, or trauma, people often ask, what good can come out of this? In the face of such a tragedy, it might appear that the answer is nothing. A lot of people are showing signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. However, negative experiences can inspire positive change, including a recognition of personal strength, the exploration of new possibilities, improved relationships, a greater appreciation for life, and spiritual growth. We see this in people who have endured war, natural disasters, bereavement, job loss, economic stress, serious illnesses and injuries. So despite the misery resulting from the coronavirus outbreak, many of us can expect to develop in beneficial ways in its aftermath. And the leaders can help others to do so. Although post-traumatic growth often happens naturally, it can also be facilitated in different ways. Through raising awareness, emotional regulation, acceptance, and compassion. You can emerge stronger, encouraging curiosity, actively listening, and offering compassionate feedback. The Kubler-Ross change curve is a popular and powerful model used to understand the stages of personal transition and organizational change. It helps you predict how people will react to change so that you can help them make their own personal transitions and make sure that they have the help and support they need. In the stage 1, employees are in a position of shock or denial. They may not be able to digest the fact that they have to undergo change and adapt to something new. As a manager, you should help employees understand why this is happening and how it can be helpful. This stage demands communication so that employees can have full knowledge and have their questions answered. You remember, raise awareness. Then finally, when the gravity of the situation settles in and reality becomes clear, employees may become and begin to feel fear from what lies ahead. And this may also turn into anger and resentment. They have been in a comfort zone for such a long time, and knowing that now they need to change is difficult. You need to watch them, listen to them, and support them. If you don't do that, you and the organization could go into a stage of depression. But in order to avoid that, try and experiment new things, explore things, accept that we've changed, and then take on the new actions on board. Give time to people to explore and test things. Not everybody moves at the same pace at the same time. Once you know that people are comfortable, make a decision and rebuild your organization, your team members. Commit to it, celebrate, and then go and integrate that new way of doing to your business. Let me give you an example. Let's consider a conference and training organization. As cities went into lockdown and people had to work from home in the spring of 2020, everyone was in a state of shock. They didn't know what's going to happen and how long the lockdown could last. They could not believe that they may have to cancel their events. Frantically, they were checking competitors to see what others are doing. Employees were feeling frustrated because they thought that the organization is not providing information and support. The management, on the other hand, was frustrated with the lack of employee engagement. People started working from home, but moods were low. The company had to cut costs and some employees were let go. Coming to the realization that the situation could take more than a couple of months, employees started experimenting new situations, different products, pricing, length of courses, delivery, etc. The company identified new champions whose skill sets were required to take the company to the next level. These champions started teaching and training the other people. They started developing capacity. By doing that, they shared their knowledge. The company became stronger, the organization, the business pivoted, and now they are streaming live events to destinations that they could not reach before the pandemic. So you can see how they used a negative situation to strengthen and move forward. As we're working through a pandemic, communication service providers are playing a pivotal role maintaining people connected. Let's review the changes which have been happening in the communication industry because they have a profound effect on our lives and the way we work. The 1G technology coverage was poor and sound quality was low and no roaming support. 2G was a cultural revolution because we could send text messages to each other and have multimedia messages. 3G increased data transfer capabilities and we were enabled to have video conferencing and voice over IP. With the 4G, gaming services came and it offered a much faster mobile web access. 5G, or as we call it, Internet of Things, will see data move out of server centers and into edge devices. Anything that is Wi-Fi enabled, like your fridges, washing machine, your TV, your cars. It will transform everything from banking, telecom, education, and healthcare. 5G is not just an access technology, but an ecosystem of technologies, working processes and changes that CSPs must support as they transform to digital service providers. So changes in the telecom industry coincide with the industrial revolutions that we are experiencing. The first industrial revolution used water and steam power to mechanize production. The second industrial revolution used electric power to create mass production. The fourth industrial revolution is building on the third, which is the digital revolution that has been occurring since the middle of last century. Due to COVID-19, most governments enforced physical distancing and urged families to stay home. We count on our internet to work, study, and have leisure time. We need and we demand increased bandwidth. This is taking place concurrently with the fourth industrial revolution, which will merge the physical, digital, and biological worlds. In its scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything that humankind has experienced before. Andrew McAfee says, digital technologies are doing for human brain power what the steam engine and related technologies did for human muscle power. They're allowing us to overcome many limitations rapidly and to open up frontiers with a lot of unknown. It's a big deal, but what's going to happen, nobody really knows. Industries and commerce from different sectors will drastically change. Restaurants might use drones for delivery. Venues could offer remote visitors based on virtual reality. Automobile companies may invest in driverless cars for public and private transportation. We need to be ready. So technological development in many different respects are growing exponentially. It's not a linear growth. The exponential growth rates that have observed over the last decades seem to promise more exciting technological advances in the future. The growth that you see is based on Moore's law that says the number of transistors on integrated circuits doubles every 2 years approximately. So we know that human intellect has been rising. However, in 2015, machine power surpassed the brain power of a mouse. In a couple of years, their power will surpass my brain power as one human being. And they're saying in 2045, machine power will surpass brain power equivalent to all of the human brain combined. This is called the singularity. Singularity is the hypothetical future creation of intelligent machines. According to singularity theory, superintelligence will be developed by self-directed computers and will increase exponentially rather than incrementally. So one of our scientists, Mr. John van Neumann, said, ever-accelerating progress of the technology and changes in the mode of human life, which gives the appearance of approaching some essential singularity in the history of the race beyond which human affairs, as we know them, could not continue. So the world is changing. As disruption becomes more pervasive, organizations need new strategic approach. One that positions them to change course in real time based on current situations. We talk about being agile. In a strategic focused organization, the strategy is linked to the budgeting process, to the communication. So they can protect long-term initiatives. Managers meet regularly to discuss and review the strategy. They use the strategy to learn of new issues and goals and to adapt new processes for change. The Three Horizons model is a growth strategy framework created by McKinsey. You can use it to think about the future of your company. It can help you manage growth in a coordinated way. There are 3 waves, as you can see. The first horizon are generally short-term projects, and they generate results anything between 1 to 3 years. The second horizon is a bit longer because they're typically those that have been copied from adjacent markets and applied to a new context. These innovations might involve adapting technology, processes, or revenue stream structures that already function well in other industries to your own. And then Horizon 3 are long-term innovation projects. They generally produce results anything between 5 to 12 years. This typically is associated with non-incremental innovation, which are disruptive and radical. If you want to see that, you need to invest in your research and development, in your R&D, if you want to see Horizon 3 materialize. These would be the questions that you ask yourself. Start from the bottom and work your way up. So in your Horizon 1, you will say, how can we increase our sales from the same customers and the same products? Then you go and say, how can we sell our existing products but to new customers? How can we have new products? How can we have a better delivery of service? How can we go into new geographical regions? Can we become stronger through acquisitions, through alliances, partnering with other people? And then finally, in your Horizon 3, you would say, what opportunities are outside existing industry that we can look into? These questions are for the private sector, for business and industry. There would be different type of questions for the public sector. Who doesn't know Walt Disney? Walt Disney celebrated their 100-year anniversary this year. They started 1920. The mission of the Walt Disney Company is to entertain, inform, and inspire people around the globe through the power of unparalleled storytelling, reflecting the iconic brands, creative minds, and innovative technologies that makes ours the world's premier entertainment company. But what was happening every 15 to 20 years, their third horizon materialized and strengthened the business. They did not sit still to say, well, we're very good, we're going to stay with merchandising, music, and publishing because film entertainment is not in our core, or why should we go and have resorts and hotels? No, each of them added to their revenue stream. I was very fortunate. During the pandemic, one of my dreams came through, and I wrote a book called Generation Inclusion. In this book, I studied 6 different generations: the traditionalists, baby boomers, Gen X, Y, and Alpha. You need to be mindful that different generations react differently to change, and they need to be managed differently. At the moment, apart from Alpha, 5 different generations work side by side, and the way we communicate differ. If you want them to change, you need to select the best channel to communicate with them. The traditionalist would say, write to me, and not in bullet points, but in proper paragraphs. The baby boomers say, come and meet me. They love that face-to-face interactions. The Gen X will say, call me, don't waste my time. Gen Y saying, send me an email, I get to it when I have time. Gen Z will say, can you send me a text and maybe a couple of images, so then I will reply to you. Let's look at that a little bit in details. The traditionalists, anybody who's born between 25 to 45, for them, work is their life. A lot of their identity is based on their life. They believe in conformity and authority. For them, change is very difficult, but they have to do it. The baby boomers, they were born between 1946 and 1964. They live to work, a lot of workaholics. They're very productive, very hardworking, and they want to know that you recognize their work. The Gen X, who were born between 65 and 80, they work to live. Work-life balance is extremely important, diversity, inclusion, and they are not going to put up with nonsense. For them, they look at that bigger picture, that bigger opportunity, and they want to jump at it and capture that opportunity. Then you come to your Gen Ys, born from 81 to 95. Work for fun. For them, the balance of work and fun is very important. They want to get that immediate feedback. If they have to change, tell them why. And then if they do something right, they want a quick payoff. They have a lot of expectations for themselves and for the company. They want, as a company, you invest in their development. And the Gen Zs, they're the youngest generations that have entered the workforce. They're born between 96 and 2009. They would say, why should I work? But they're very collaborative. They're future focused, very realistic. For them, honesty and fairness is very important. They work with different screens. So if Gen Y works with 2 screens, Gen Z would be working with 5 screens. And our Gen Alphas, our babies who were born after 2020, they haven't reached the workforce yet. And they say, what is work? Okay, so we realized that we need to engage with different generations differently. Most of our traditionalists, they've retired, or in a family business, they're holding your cash, your funds. So you need to let them know that you appreciate their contribution. They are not happy because at the moment they are unsettled because a lot of changes involve technology. And they were not raised during an era that they had to be educated through technology. So be compassionate with them. Our baby boomers, they are the stars. If you give them something, you can rely on them that they will deliver what they're supposed to do. Get to know them personally, appreciate their contribution, and maybe you pair them up with the Gen Ys. We come to Gen Xs. These are the people who appreciate to have a very good executive coach so that they can have that conversation and plan for that future. At the moment, the work-life balance is imbalanced because they have to work from home, they have to do homeschooling, they have to do their chores. So they're very, very unsettled. But give them the end goal, let them go on their own. They hate micromanagement. Give them the reason why they have to do it, and they will do it for you. And if you can, spend some time with them. Your Gen Ys. They came to the workforce. We had an economical downturn in 2008, 2009, and now they're going through this pandemic and the economical downturn. So a lot of them are suffering mental health. Partner them with baby boomers who have a little bit more resilience. And then the baby boomers will learn technological advancement from the Gen Ys. As I said, be generous with their training. If they're working on a project, they want that project to be adding value to your organization. If they feel that they reach the threshold that you're not investing in their development and they're not adding value to you, they will move. 2 years for them is fine. When I told my son that I've been with a company for 20 years, he says, I'm struggling to finish my 2-year. So they're different. If you want to retain them, you need to engage them with another project that they feel they're adding value. And then Gen Zs, the youngest in the workforce. They spend an equivalent amount of time in their virtual zone than in real life. So they will only join an organization that can give them that technological advancement. For them, that's very important. Also, they don't want to join a company that would harm humans, animals, or the environment. If you're putting something glossary on your website, they will go and review it. They will also go and watch the review of their peer people, their ages, or maybe Gen Y who joined you, and what did they say about your organization. So do not lie. Once you're blacklisted, you're out. And you want to be able to reach them through their phones because they rely on that quite a lot. They spend time on it, they waste time on it, they entertain themselves, and they communicate with their peers. In order to implement change, you need to make people aware and provide knowledge and skill sets to be able to cope with the changes happening around them. I'm proposing to change KSA, which is knowledge, skill, attitude, to ask, as the willingness to change must come from within. I need to want to change, no matter how much support I get from my company, unless I am willing to take this step towards that exploration, commitment, and celebration. Nobody can do that for me. On that note, I wish you all the best on the road to change. As you know, the only constant is change. These are my contact details. I spent time in putting this presentation together for you. Please drop me a line. I would like to know if I managed to part with any new information that was important and relevant for you, and if you have the intention of using it.